Hello, and welcome back to the podcast that must not be named. I am Luke.
I am Melissa.
And we are still on the same calendar day in the story of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Chapter 19, The Servant of Lord Voldemort. This chapter is 20 pages of the same day, and that's 6.4% of this book, same calendar day.
And now, a voice of the Imaginary Legion.
Hey there listeners, I'm Jem.
And I'm Ria. We're the hosts of podcast 9 3/4, a show where two sisters discuss the Harry Potter universe and try to answer all the unanswered questions from the books.
Today, Melissa and Luke have kindly invited us onto the show to do a quick summary of Chapter 19 from The Prisoner of Azkaban. We're calling the chapter today, The Assistant to He Who Must Not Be Named. So our chapter begins where Harry, Hermione, Ron, Sirius, Lupin, Crick Shanks, and Scabbers are all gathered in the Shrieking Shack. Snape appears in the doorway from under the invisibility cloak, claiming that he found it next to the Whomping Willow. He says that he followed all of them here by looking at the Marauders map in Lupin's office, and mentions that Lupin has not taken his potion tonight.
Snape is convinced Lupin is working with Sirius. Lupin tries to explain, but Snape attacks him and binds him with a spell. Sirius is furious.
Hermione chimes in and tries to convince Snape that maybe they should listen to Lupin and Sirius, but Snape yells at her and calls her a stupid girl.
Snape threatens to give Sirius and Lupin to the Dementors.
Harry blocks the door and tells Snape that he's being pathetic. Snape is beyond reason.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione all blast Snape with a triple Expelliarmus and knock him unconscious.
Sirius reveals to everyone that Fudge gave him a copy of the Daily Prophet, and that he saw a picture of the Weasley family visiting Egypt, and noticed that Scabbers the rat, sitting upon Ron's shoulder in the photograph, was missing a front toe. Lupin seems to understand something that the children do not.
Sirius then explains how Crick Shanks has been helping him for almost the entire year. Crick Shanks was the one who stole the passwords from Neville's bedside table.
Sirius then goes to explain what actually happened on the night that the Potters were betrayed. He says that originally the plan was he, Sirius, would be the secret keeper for the Potters' location, but at the last minute, Sirius suggested that they change the secret keeper to Peter Pettigrew, so then it must have been Peter Pettigrew who actually betrayed the Potters and turned them over to the Dark Lord.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione don't know if they can believe this, so Lupin says that it's time for them to provide proof. He takes Scabbers and casts a spell to transform him back into a human.
Peter Pettigrew is revealed and tries to convince Lupin that Sirius is lying and is trying to kill him all over again.
Sirius says Voldemort's name, which seems to frighten Peter Pettigrew. He says that Pettigrew has been hiding from Voldemort's followers for 12 years.
Pettigrew claims that Voldemort's supporters were only after him because he put one of the Dark Lord's best spies, referring to Sirius, in Azkaban.
Sirius says that he should have known Pettigrew was the spy because Pettigrew has always wanted to hide behind strong friends. Once upon a time, it was Sirius, Remus, and James. Now it's Voldemort.
Hermione questions why Peter Pettigrew hasn't tried to hurt Harry before this time, seeing as he's been Scabbers the rat for the past few years and has had plenty of opportunity to attack Harry.
Sirius says that this is because Peter Pettigrew has never done anything for anyone unless he could see what was in it for himself.
Hermione refers to Sirius as Mr. Black and asks him how he escaped from Azkaban. Sirius explains that he turned into a dog while in his cell and managed to slip through the bars because he was so thin. The Dementors did not notice a change in his soul as he escaped from Azkaban.
Sirius says to Harry, believe me, I never betrayed James and Lily. I would have died before I betrayed them. Harry believes him.
Pettigrew begins to beg.
Lupin and Sirius apologize to each other for suspecting that each other were the spy. They say that they both want to kill Pettigrew together.
Pettigrew goes to each person in the room and begs with them to spare him. Ron in particular is revolted, saying to Pettigrew, I let you sleep in my bed.
When Pettigrew tries to appeal to Harry, Sirius loses his temper and starts screaming at Pettigrew. How dare you speak to Harry?
Pettigrew admits everything. He betrayed the Potters to Voldemort, but only because he was so terrified, and begs Lupin and Sirius to tell him what they would have done in his position.
Sirius says that Pettigrew should have died rather than betraying his friends, as Sirius, Remus, and James would have done for him.
Before Lupin and Sirius can murder Peter Pettigrew, Harry stops them and says that they should take Pettigrew up to the castle so that he can be punished by the Dementors.
Harry doesn't want Sirius and Lupin to murder Pettigrew in James's name.
Lupin uses a spell to bind Peter, and then Lupin and Ron chain themselves to Peter Pettigrew and form a line to leave the Shrieking Shack. Crick Shanks the cat leads the way out of the Shrieking Shack, and that's where the chapter ends.
character introductions.
None.
Sort of. Peter becomes a person.
Okay, we meet Peter the person.
Peter the person as opposed to Peter the rat. But other than that, guess what? It's the same people sitting in a room.
Peter the person. We have met. I actually have to write that in. You're right. Peter
the person. We have no new locations.
Same location.
Still in the same room in the Shrieking Shack.
We do have magicabulary.
We do. I'm going to let you introduce them, and then I'm going to tell you my aha moment.
Okay. So the first one, and they both come towards the very end of this chapter. We have Ferula, which is the charm or whatever spell that puts bandages on Ron's leg.
Or a splint. I think it's more
a splint and bandages
issue.
is what it says. So some kind of first aid.
Excellent. It sounds like a girl's name.
Yeah, sounds like Marula.
It does. That girl.
And we also have Mobila Corpus, which is described as being kind of like a puppet charm.
Okay. So I was revisiting this chapter while driving to one of my children's many out-of-town sporting activities. And I literally paused it and I was like, what the flip was that? And my daughter's like, Mom, what's wrong? And I stopped and I looked at her and I said, my dad was right. And she was like, huh? And I said, well, you don't listen to our show. She's like, no. I'm like, oh, great. Thanks. But then I explained to her about how our father, my father and Luke's father, not her father, but our father, had told us several weeks ago about his theory of the mobiliarbus charm that Luke and I have been discussing back and forth about how it was mobilizing trees or mobilizing arbors. And we both discounted him because we said, oh no, it's a potted plant. Therefore, it's not nearly as complicated as you think. Except in this chapter, in order to mobilize a corpse, although not a dead body, but a body, right? Mobilize a body, they use the mobili corpus charm, totally proving my father right, which makes me both really happy for him and really disappointed in us.
But credit where credit is due.
Yeah. So he was right. Don't tell my mom.
Yeah. She doesn't need that.
No.
So let's look at this illustration. Looks like the Shrieking Shack.
True. Boarded up windows. So it's either a haunted house, a house that's prepared for a hurricane, or the Shrieking Shack.
Big foggy moon background. That's nice.
Creepy trees, bats
weeds.
or something of some sort.
Where's the maintenance crew?
I know, right? It's definitely not constructed very well. It's like angular. It's not even 90-degree angles going up.
It was built by magic.
Ugh, magic. Magic happened. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine.
So let's get into some of our deeper diver quotes and notes. What do you got?
Keep quiet, you stupid girl. Okay, I think Snape is losing it a little bit because he called Hermione stupid. You call anybody else stupid, I'm with you. But she's just proven after all of the last chapters and how freakishly intelligent she is, she's not stupid. So maybe you need to take a few deep breaths over there.
Yeah, no, I think he's a little out of it. He's at Wig's end, you know. Yeah, no, misogyny aside, for the girl comment, you're just wrong. Right. And he doesn't, there's no way he believes that she's stupid.
No.
He's just so past cognitive ability right now with fury at what's going on. Yeah, no, he's lost it.
Well, because he's not listening to anyone either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not listening to Lupin, not even giving them a chance, even though he's been in the room. We didn't really mention it, but the door creaked open and then shut itself.
In the last chapter.
That's right. And then we have the reveal that it was Snape underneath the invisibility cloak. And so we know for at least, I think it was 3 of those 8 pages, or 3 of those 9 pages last chapter. That he was overhearing all of this stuff. I know he specifically overheard the tale of, what actually happened to Snape, and that Sirius and James, playing a prank on him to go check out, hey, that's where he's at. Go after him. Here's how you get past the tree. And then James runs back and, kind of pulls him out of it, but he still sees the werewolf, Snape that is. And
5 pages.
5 pages out of 9. So he was there for a lot of information.
Yes.
And it seemed like he wasn't even listening then. That's his own fault.
Right. And I think that shows at the end of the day why Lupin comes off better than Snape, because Like, Lupin is literally in the face of prejudice from the kids, and he still manages to maintain calm and rational thought, and Snape does not.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't like Snape.
I definitely don't like him in this book.
Mm-hmm. And I love that Harry loses it in response to Snape. He's like, "You're pathetic. Just because they made a fool of you at school, you won't even listen." And Snape is all up in arms of, insolence and all of this.
To me. Blah blah blah.
I'm a professor. Wah, wah, wah. Like, no, get out of your big boy shoes and listen. Like, can we be reasonable here? You're the only one not participating in this conversation.
Right. Besides the rat who's kind of in the corner losing his mind. But that's a different story.
It's a different story.
Well, that's right. That's a different section of the story.
I agree.
But Snape is soon dealt with.
Yeah.
Expertly by his own spell that he taught to the children, because all three of them attack Snape. I love it.
Yeah, I do like that we learn of the triple disarming spell, and that spells are additive. They kind of say how, like, since all three hit him, it had, extra oomph to it.
Yep.
I think that's kind of a branch of magic we haven't had experience with. So it's kind of a new thing is, spells seem to be additive in power or whatever it is. Density, spell density.
I wonder if also there has to be some sort of intent behind it. Mm-hmm. Like a difference between me being like, hey, just get that out of your hands versus this intense
emphasis.
hate and anger that these three put behind it too. I wonder if that helped.
Yeah, I think you could probably turn up the level of spell density or spell concentration if we're going to get science.
Dial it to 11.
Turn it to 11. Why don't you just make 10 louder and keep it the same volume? But it goes to 11.
Exactly.
I also find it interesting that Sirius finds out about Pettigrew being alive in a newspaper picture. Like, how off chance is that? Like the one newspaper he's seen in 12 years is the one of the Weasleys in Egypt. That's crazy. Scabbers is there on Ron's shoulder, and he can tell from that. Like, that's one, either convenient for the story, or two, really perceptive by Sirius.
Well, okay. So I think it's really convenient for the story. I tend to be more pessimistic about things like that. However,
I like to as well, but then question, how could we justify this?
Here's the thing. I wonder, this would be terrible. I wonder how funny it would be for Sirius to go through all of this and it not be Peter Pettigrew. Like, he's
going off of one, well, I guess, and then throughout the year.
He's also spent his entire imprisonment thinking about this guy. He might be, so I'm not even saying that it's off of one fuzzy picture. He might be projecting his 12 years of anger onto what really could be an innocent rat.
Right. But it's one of those, if we've had this discussion 3 chapters ago, if you're looking for something, you're gonna start seeing it. It's like when you're going to get a new car and you're like, oh, I really like that kind of car. I don't see very many of those. And then you only see those when you're out driving. You see one every time you're in the car, that until you start looking for it, you don't notice it. Right. But if you're legitimately looking for it, it's going to be there.
Yes.
Your brain is going to trick you.
Yep.
It happens all the time.
Yep. Let's talk about about Scabbers and the faking your own death act. Again,
right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we questioned, what really happened with Scabbers and Crick Shanks 2 chapters ago. And so here we find out Scabbers bid himself to, fake his death again, framing poor old Crick Shanks. Poor old Crick Shanks.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I think you're going to hear me start changing my tune on Crick Shanks now that we know where Crick Shanks has what.
Does it have an upbeat tempo? I'm very excited about this tune.
Yeah, maybe Smarmy Lockhart can start coming
Speaking of Smarmy Lockhart, he is my last note. So unless you have anything else, I have a Smarmy Lockhart thought.
Let's get back to Smarmy Lockhart.
Just put a pin in it, but we're coming right back.
Don't forget. I really liked Lupin's comment about, how Pettigrew faked his death the first time. He's like, oh, he cut his fingers off and made it look, he's like, it's so simple, so brilliant. He cut it off himself. And just like kind of seeing that in Lupin's, mental capacity, like work through, like, okay, well, that's kind of that missing piece that I just didn't understand. And now, like, that's the point where Lupin feels like fully, engaged again in where
Right.
one of his best friends has been and what he's been through. And I know they even go into, like why wouldn't Sirius tell Lupin? And even Lupin was like, well, Sirius probably thought that I was the spy. And Sirius is like, I apologize. He's like, no, it's cool. Like, I get it. I remember how it was at the time. Yeah, I mean.
Well, and that moment when they forgive each other because Lupin was like, I'm sorry, I thought it was you. And Sirius like, I'm sorry, I thought it was you. And they were like, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's like, all the feels.
Yeah, no, it was nice for them to kind of have that closure on questions in their own friendship.
Yes.
And truly be
It's nice for them to be able to trust each other again.
Right.
That's what happened in that moment.
Yeah,
they regained
exactly.
all of that trust right back to where they used to be.
I love that too. Another thing that I really liked, Crick Shanks, I think it's funny when you're reading and you realize that a theory that you were building in your head, and I even mentioned it on one of our episodes, that basically Neville's passwords were stolen by Crick Shanks. Stolen.
And which I didn't believe you. I was like, are you sure?
It's funny when your theory that you're building turns out to just be you remembering the story.
But not really remembering that you
Right.
were remembering.
Right, because it's like one quick line and it just says Crick Shanks must have gotten the passwords off of some boy's bedside table. So it's like, it doesn't even say Neville, which is where it's kind of easy not to really think about it. But
Right.
once you start looking at it, yeah.
Totally set up poor Neville.
And I also really like that Lupin and Hermione do their due diligence in asking reasonable questions to Peter Pettigrew. They're like,
Benefit of the doubt.
they're like, if we can, prove that your story holds up, because Sirius has kind of made his points, and
They make sense.
it's kind of ironclad right now. I mean, let's see if
Right.
anything you say is reasonable.
But neither of them have jumped to the conclusion that he has to. I mean, I think Lupin kind of knows, but it's
He's still
me
giving
right. It's
him a
okay.
chance,
They
and
make really good lawyers.
they would be a good team.
Yeah.
Lupin and Granger, LLC.
Granger and Lupin,
Granger and Lupin. That's stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
less misogynistic.
True. So let's get back to Smarmy Lockhart.
Reason number 5,932 that Lupin is a better defense against the dark arts teacher than Lockhart. Ready?
And yes, she has been counting.
I really have. Lupin admits that he cannot mend bones as well as Madame Pomfrey, so splints a leg and says he needs to go to the hospital wig, as opposed to Lockhart, who just removes the bones entirely.
The bones weren't broken anymore.
5,932.
Well stated. So, questions. You got any?
Five.
Five.
Question 1. Would you try to kill the person who landed you in prison if you knew you were innocent and it was all that person's fault, given the opportunity?
No, I wouldn't. I don't really know how to. That's
me
not
either.
me.
I think that's the part of Sirius's story that I don't understand. I would want to expose it.
It might be different after you have been in prison for 12
True.
years. I luckily haven't been in prison for 12 years, so
That's true. We have not.
it's hard to say. People change in times like that, so I can't say in his position I wouldn't feel as outright furious. And it's not the only person that got you in prison is directly responsible for two of your best friends being dead.
True.
That's a little different too.
But I still would rather expose him.
Right. I agree. And I think Harry pulls a good point in response to
Right.
that, which I thought that I picked that for one of the best lines. Is that next chapter? That's next chapter.
Maybe.
No. Did we skip a thing? Basically where Harry says that James wouldn't want them to become killers. Is this chapter right?
Yes. I am not doing this for you. I'm doing it because I don't reckon my dad would have wanted them to become killers just for you.
Yeah, and I think that is a good, line by Harry in response to this kind of same thing. Like, regardless of, what happened to me, I'm probably better off having justice actually be served the right way, because Sirius is going to be on the run if he kills him.
That was always my question about Harry's motivation. For me, it's not about my dad not wanting them to become killers. It's about me wanting to make sure Sirius gets his innocence revealed. And the only way to do that is to prove, I would want it to help this guy out.
Yeah.
But maybe he doesn't care about him enough that it's more about caring about his dad and his dad for his friends, for his dad's friends, for his dad's sake, as opposed to like taking care of that guy for that guy's sake.
I think it's both. I think both make sense.
All right, question 2. Is Crick Shanks a bad guy?
No, he's a cat.
Is he a bad cat?
No, he's a good cat.
He said it, guys. I got him
Still
to
don't
say
like cats,
it.
but Crick Shanks. Crick Shanks is a good character.
It. I'm very excited.
Yeah, Crick Shanks is a well-intentioned character, and
Heart in the right place.
heart in the right place means are questionable. It's just
questionable,
it didn't have a way to communicate that to the group. So
It'd be a lot cooler if he could.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This guy's hiding.
why did Crick Shanks go to McGonagall? Be like, hey, let's be a cat together real quick. Let's chit chat. Solved.
True. Maybe he
Come
doesn't
on,
trust
Crick
her.
Shanks. Oh, that's
I don't
true.
know.
She hasn't done anything to prove herself. McGonagall.
No, I'm sorry.
in the
I
eyes of
didn't-
this cat.
I didn't really mean it. I love you, Professor McGonagall. Please don't be mad at me.
Well, in the eyes of Crick Shanks,
I don't care.
She means nothing to me.
Or maybe he doesn't know she's a cat. Maybe she hasn't been a cat around him. Do you know what I mean? It might not be something she does very often.
I wonder if other animals can sense animagi ability at all.
I don't know.
I don't know. Good questions. We'll talk about that at some other point, maybe.
Question 3. Would you protect Pettigrew in the way that Harry did?
I think so. It makes sense, and we've kind of touched on it
Yeah.
a little bit. The one allowing Sirius to potentially get his sentences revoked because of the truth coming out, I think that's pretty important. And yeah, I mean, just because he did this, it's not for Lupin and Sirius to become murderers in whatever justification they want to put on it. I don't know. What do you think?
I would go with, I would do it to get Sirius off the hook. I wouldn't do it because of the memory of his dad, but I would still say, yeah, no, let's not do this.
Yeah, but
Big fan of not murdering people.
But then again, like in the heat of the moment, it's hard to say what,
True.
what if you're really going to stand up the way
True.
Harry does
And
to
who
do
knows? Question 4. Based on what we've seen so far in the book and on Sirius's description, how would you rate the effectiveness and or efficiency of the Azkaban guards?
So I saw this question and canceled out one of my notes that I had earlier. So I'm going to read that note now. Prison guards who cannot see at all? Come on, Ministry of Magic. Like, seriously? Not one guard in there has eyesight? Like, I get they have this soul feeling thing. Like, cool.
But I mean, you're telling me there's not a single wizard
Have
overseeing
one
them?
guy at the door. Have one wizard at the door. Be like, hey, there goes a dog.
Did
Hey,
we have
whoa. Where's this dog coming from?
Right.
Like,
But I mean,
question.
like, who's overseeing how they use their soul sucking power and
Right, yeah,
their
where's the oversight on the Dementors?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I agree.
Question a lot of it. I mean, they're pretty effective,
Yeah.
except for whole serious getting out thing, but their efficiency rating might be a little lower because I wouldn't trust them without direct wizard oversight. And my assumption is, based on the whole dog walking straight out thing, there is no direct wizard oversight on site.
Yeah, no, it doesn't seem like it. Unless there's a
Man,
back
think
door.
about that job, right? Like Azkaban prison guard or like overseer of Dementors. You'd either have to be really a depressed person all the time or incredibly happy and like nothing could faze you.
That's really funny that you bring that up because on one of the Hogwarts radio episodes that I was on recently, we had that discussion of what is the worst job in the wizarding world, and Azkaban prison guard as a wizard was one of the ones that we came up with. I mean, it would be pretty brutal. Like, I agree that, yeah, certain people could maybe deal
Right.
with it. But for like the average wizard, witcher wizard,
Then you have to go home to like your kids and go see their ballet recitals and stuff. That'd be terrible.
I guess it all comes flooding back to you, though. Maybe you'd be extra excited for those things once you left.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
Okay.
Benefits.
Pondering this. Question 5. Would you volunteer to be chained to Peter Pettigrew?
I mean, I'd rather not.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't really see him much of a threat, though. I mean, it's more of just a nuisance.
I don't see why they don't just knock him out like they did Snape and float him along. Like, let's just knock him to... yeah.
One of my biggest gripes throughout all of these stories, they don't use the full body bind curse nearly enough.
No, that would have
We
been an
learned it in book
excellent
1.
use of it.
Use it all the time. This is a perfect spot.
It's similar to the map and the invisibility cloak.
Use that. He doesn't have a wand. Like, he's not going to undo it.
And obviously you have a charm that you can then float him along. Yep, full body bind. Big fan. You're right. That's what they should have used.
Wham. Done.
All right.
Melissa, what was your favorite line?
I have two.
Hey, me too. What's your two?
My runner up to my favorite was when Pettigrew was trying to defend himself, I say, with grains of salt. And he's like, what? I was hiding because I was so afraid Sirius would come and get me. And Lupin's like, you knew Sirius was going to break out of Azkaban, said Lupin, his brow furrowed. When nobody has ever done it before. Really? Like, really? Are you sure? That's
Is that
what you were afraid of?
Is that what's going to happen?
I really like that line. That was very funny. Because that's when, like, he's been questioning and asking nice things. And then he just twists it right there. Really? So I like that moment. But my very favorite line is right after they unratify Peter Pettigrew.
They ratified him. Yeah.
They
unratified him. Yeah. Like the Constitution amendments.
The opposite. Right. They humaned him again.
Sapiened.
There you go. They did that, and he was a person again. And so
he was then again then Peter the person.
Okay. So Lupin starts addressing Peter, and Lupin says, we've been having a little chat, Peter, about what happened the night Lily and James died. You might have missed the finer points while you were squeaking around down there on the bed.
Very funny.
It's a very funny line. It's so dry and so like, oh, this is what we're doing, and you may have missed it while you were squeaking. And like, you could just, that word was like such a dig.
Oh, yeah.
It was brilliant.
So I also have two. My runner-up, it's pretty long, so bear with me. But it's kind of almost a scene, but...
He was taking over everywhere, asked Pettigrew. What was there to be gained by refusing him? What was there to be gained by fighting the most evil wizard who has ever existed, said Black, with a terrible fury in his face. Only innocent lives, Peter. You don't understand, whined Pettigrew. He would have killed me, Sirius. Then you should have died, roared Black. Died rather than betray your friends, as we would have done for you. Black and Lupin stood shoulder to shoulder, wands raised.
Oh, so good.
Just so good.
Yep.
Like, I think it's perfect that, they're standing there shoulder to shoulder after that line, that series of lines. And they're like, all right, this is the point of no return. You just made that choice and you messed up. Guess what? Now this is happening.
I would say that one of my favorite moments, it's the very next line, right after that, when Lupin says, you should have realized if Voldemort didn't kill you, we would.
Yeah, I probably should have added that on.
But it's a different moment.
Yeah, that's where I was with it too. It's like, This is kind of self-contained. That's a great follow-up.
Like, I feel like that's something you could use. You should have realized if he didn't kill you, I would.
Yeah, I mean, and that should easily be right there,
yes.
In this running. So I'm glad we got that in there as well. My real favorite line is from Lupin talking to Snape.
You fool, said Lupin softly. Is a schoolboy grudge worth putting an innocent man back inside Azkaban?
Again, like, Snape sucks this chapter.
Yeah.
Like, he's brutal and...
He needs to take his emotions out of it. For a guy who's so, like... most of the time and cool and calm and not really calm, but
he plays that.
He's not.
He's not at all.
No, and control your emotions, man.
This is mask off,
Yeah. And it's not pretty underneath.
It's not pretty. Snape's garbage. Ugh. So, on a lighter note, who was your chapter MVP?
I almost feel guilty picking this because I feel like this has been like fangirling this entire book, but it has to be Lupin. Yeah. Four of the five favorite lines we had were spoken by Lupin, and one of them he said with somebody. So like, he's just smart and calm and brilliant and a friend and caring, and he's all
mentor,
the good things.
Yeah, good teacher. He's all the good things. So to somewhat counteract that, but go right along with it, I'm going to pick Sirius as my honorable mention. I think he was very good this chapter. He kind of really puts the screws down on Pettigrew because, one, it's self-serving for Sirius. Hey, if I can absolutely prove, this and justify this to everyone else here, like, cool. I know it's the truth. But I just think he does such a good job. And that runner-up favorite line that I had, then you should have died as we would have done for you. That's so telling of his true character.
And I think this is the first chapter we get more than just angry escapee.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And it's nice to see, more than just angry escapee, as you so
It
astutely
is.
put. And he becomes a person here.
Yeah.
And it's, I like that quite a
With
bit.
values. Mm-hmm. I have a least valuable person.
I think you're right on this.
It's like the first time I've ever, I mean, aside from just not liking Lockhart.
Or Trelawney. There's been some
But I
annoyed
think
by.
this is the first time I've really, truly been like, yeah, that guy could go.
Yeah.
I don't like Pettigrew.
Yeah,
He's
Pettigrew's
annoying and evil and bad, but not even like,
a cowardly bad.
Yes.
Cowardly evil.
yes, like
is-
if you're going to be evil, own it.
Yeah. Yeah. Confident evil. I can at least respect that.
I can,
You know, like,
I'm not going to get behind it because,
no. I can.
but you're
can
right.
respect
Like
it from the other side.
I can understand the value of having a strong antagonist, but a whiny, cowardly, pouting antagonist? No.
What if Pettigrew is the big bad guy, really? And Voldemort's always been working for him.
Well, then Voldemort needs better marketing.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think the timeline works on that.
No,
Yeah.
I don't either. Hey, I think we're done.
I think we are as well.
So we're found in places throughout the week between now and next chapter. Those places would be online at our website, thepodcastthat.com. Please visit it. Let us know what you think. You can email us at thepodcastthat@gmail.com. And my favorite place to find us is on Twitter at NotNamedPodcast.
Subscribe, rate, like, leave comments on iTunes and YouTube. Check out our store and also our Audible affiliate link on our website. Get yourself this book or book 4, which we're going to be starting here shortly. And we'll get a nice little kickback from Audible for that. Special thank you to our voices from the Imaginary Legion, podcast 9 3/4, Jem and Rhea. Bloody brilliant, ladies. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Make sure you check out their podcast as well. Join us next week when we get to chapter number 20.
The Dementor's Kiss. Stay imaginary.
Thanks.